I updated my void box, which updated Emacs. Now when I start Emacs, I'm getting a warning. I don't want to use my mouse too much if I use it for a minute, because the software I'm running is OBS and NVIDIA to try to clean up the sound with the AC and all the background noise. And it freaks out whenever I use my mouse in Emacs for some reason. Anyways, the cookie right here is a lexical binding, and it's missing from my init file because that's being loaded. Any Emacs or elisp files are being loaded need a cookie in it, basically, or you're going to get a warning. And you can enable it by running this command. If I tried to run it right here, it would, to read-only buffer, if I switch Control-X-O to this one, and then I try to run that, you need to actually be in the file you want to enable it in. It's saying it's already enabled because by default, the scratch buffer, if I say Control-J here, says true. You can also say Control-X-E, Control-X, Control-E. It'll say true down here at the very bottom. Another way to get that value is to Alt-Shift semicolon or metacolon and just type lexical binding. Then it'll say true down there. The inferior lisp buffer is also lexical binding by default, which I'll show in a second. Right now, what I want to do is open up the Emacs init file, and we'll go ahead and run that command. Let's enable. It's going to say, do you want to enable it, yes or no? If you say no, it won't add anything. If you say yes, it adds this cookie for you. The catch here is that by default, it's true, which changes the default, which we can see. I will go back to the scratch buffer to show this actually. So if we say Control-H, B, and then give it lexical binding, then you can see by default, well, you can see the value is true because we're in the scratch buffer. And it's saying local and buffer scratch, it's true, but globally it's nil. So by default, globally it's nil, but certain areas it will be true, like the scratch pad and the inferior elisp mode. So I'll say Control-X1 to keep that window only. I kind of want to see the warning still, but it doesn't matter. Control-X-B. Go back to my init file. Let's just turn it on here. So right now, if I save this and restart it, the error will be gone. But I'm going to load a file first to show. Load file. Let's make it junk. Emacs. Try-del. And then here, I'll say chunk this so I don't forget. Later. And then I'll save that, but I also want to create that file. And it's junk. Emacs. Trash.del. And then it doesn't matter what's in here, but let's combine. And then since save it, since it's a EL file, we can hit Control-X-E inside it. And then down here at the bottom, you see it says nil. So that's showing that by default, any elisp files you create are going to be dynamically bound right now. So it's got dynamic binding in it. And you can add that cookie here too. So it was elisp-enable. If I add that, I say yes, but I want to get rid of it. That's true, and put nil here. So it's still using the default value. So that's kind of a catch. If you just want to not pay attention to it, and not change anything, you actually want to put nil there. I don't think there's a command for that. Now, actually, I want to get rid of that. I'll save this. I'm going to take Control-X-B, go back to the init file. I can't comment that out, I don't think, but so I'll just kill it for now and save it. And then, because I'm this is a daemon, I can hit Control-X-F just to see if there's any files that need to be saved. Because usually Control-X, Control-C, killing Emacs will check that for you. That command is running like save some buffers. And then there's also like save some files and kill Emacs or something like that. But I'll just use like kill Emacs. If I can pull up the other one, it won't. So I'll kill Emacs. Because I'm running it as a daemon, I have to kill it, or when I run it again, I won't get that error back. And this time, just wanted to show that there can be many. Control-X-O, and then I'll go to the top of that file. So you see right here, it's got the init files error and the trash files error. So if you're getting a bunch of these errors, you might want to inhibit or suppress the error. In all your own files, you want to decide which one to use probably and put the cookie there. But if you have some packages, let's say, that aren't, you don't want to go in there and change anything in those files. You want the maintainers to be able to do that. I guess unless it's really old and you have to deal with it yourself. So you might just want to suppress that error. So let's go do that real quick. Control-X-O, so we leave that there. Control-X-F. Let's open the init file. And I guess we could show that we could add those cookies there first. So this one, let's give us to enable that. I want to do that, yes. I'll leave it as true. And then let's go to that junk file. Junk, Emacs, trash file. And then do the same thing here. Use Alt-P to get the last command I did. I'll hit no this time. It didn't do anything. So Alt-X, Alt-P, and then yes, it adds it. I actually want to put nil. You'd think that they would have a command for that too, but I guess you just change it. That way it stays at default, I guess. So I'll kill Emacs. Make sure I save the other one, yes. I feel like save some. Save buffers, kill Emacs. So that command. But this one doesn't have a shortcut for it, so it's a little faster to use the other one, I think. And then now those are gone. We want to go back inside the junk file and get the trash and get rid of this. Because we want it to throw an error. And then we want to go back to the .emacs file, just the init file. Now this one you can't get rid of because this has to be the first line. This cookie does. And when we try to suppress, which we probably want to do before that, we want to like suppress or inhibit this error, then the cookie has to be read by this time. So in your init file, you need to go ahead and put this. Then if it's loading other files, it doesn't matter if you suppress it. So we can say, let's say some packages, you're waiting on the maintainers to fix their code or whatever, or update it. Then you can just suppress these. Probably want to deal with your own code now. Either change it to your lexical or put that cookie in there. Inhibit types. And then the type is files. And the warning we want to suppress is missing lex-bind. Could be. Make sure I typed that correctly. And then Control-X-S, nothing needs to be saved. I need to kill Emacs. And then run it again. The error should still, like, we shouldn't see the warning anymore. So that's how you can deal with this. If, I guess we can show the inferior elisp mode. And then here we could just say lexical-binding, and it's true. So in the scratch pad it's turned on, here it's turned on. There might be some other places it's turned on by default. I don't know them all. I just know these two. I guess lexical binding can be, the byte compiler can optimize that code. It'll let you use closures, proper closures without having to use like some hack that you might have to do right now on elisp, where the variables can keep state. And dynamic binding, the runtime, it happens at runtime. It'll have to go run and look and see where that value was last set, let's say. I guess we could show that. I'm not going to worry about showing closures and stuff, but just to get an idea of what's going on, we could define a function. We should call it whichflex. Give it no value here, no argument. And then at first it's kind of weird that the inferior left mode's moving that down, but it's actually just making it, I guess, the indentation more convenient looking. Especially if you have to copy this code in some notes or something like that. It's really nice. Versus like slide doesn't do that for me. First off, like, why is it moving it? And I'm like, oh, I think it's being nice to me. And then let's just say L name here. So we have a little function that gives a message, which is kind of strange that L name right here doesn't, like, it can't reach that, but I guess Elis doesn't care about that. And then here we'll try to use a let, and then we'll say L name. We'll give L name a value here, and then we want to call that function. We'll say which lex. And then right here you see that it's crying that the variable is void, L name. Now if we set this set q lexical-binding to nil, then we just turned off lexical-binding. Now it's dynamic. So that variable will be dynamic now. And now it can catch that. So in this instance, whichflex, our function, which is up here, has L name in it, but it's not defined anywhere. So it's climbing up into this let and grabbing L name here. And then it's able to do this. Where in the other mode, we flip this to T, let's say, it can't do that anymore because it's locked in. This function can't reach out into this let and grab this variable right here. It'll make it void. What we can do though is, if I say Control R and go to whichflex up there. Oh, I better go to the defvar because there's only one. Hit enter here. Let's grab this. I'm at the front. I hit Control Alt space just to highlight the whole thing. Alt W to copy it, and then Shift Alt period or meta Granulan, and then Control Y. That's the jump down there, and then Control Y to paste. Then what we want to do here is give L name a value. So you can still code. You can still make your function. Make sure I did switch yes, lexical-binding is on. And then now we can come over here, since we did it like this. We'll go grab that let right here, and then we'll say L name. And then now, and so doing all that, see, type the function out. Oops, we gotta give it an argument. And we'll give it L name. It's because I call it on function. Oh yeah, no mind. I thought I would call it with something. That's gonna work. But I'm not supposed to be trying to do that anymore. Supposed to be running this let. And now you'll see that it can work. It grabs this either way. So if we were to say like set q, lexical-binding at all, and the let's still gonna work either way. And that's because the function is expecting an argument. So we give it the argument. Now this it can look up and see L name is here and grab it because it's the argument value that it's grabbing right here. Whereas before, that variable is dynamic. Now you can still use defvar. I'm gonna say def custom too is dynamic, but defvar, if we gave it some name, and call it cow, then its name right here is now dynamic. So if you still want to use dynamic binding, you can using defvar. If I do I still have those messages? Did I get rid of the messages? That's all the access and press the error. So if you want to get more information about it, then you can just go to the warning message, which let's just go get my init file real quick. I'll kill this line. So I want to get this stuff out of here before I forget. So and we'll come up here, save this. It's still Emacs. For the last time, hopefully. Fire it back up. And then whether you want to turn this on or not, we can say Control X0, Control X1 to make that full screen. And then if I come over here, then you can see selecting this dialect. What's the other one? I should have, before I clicked on this, I should have looked. Is converting. So there was two little links there. One of them was converting if you want to like how to convert your stuff over, I guess. It's describing that. This one's which one do I want to select? Should I select truth or T&L basically? And then it's also where I found out about the scratch right here and ILM being the truth values of those two places. It's using lexical binding by default, and everywhere else it's not. Well, I won't say everywhere else, but most places it's not. And then right here it's showing you that this may change in the future, but I think this is older. Apparently, maybe it is going to change since they're starting to force this cookie everywhere. And so now the only question is, what, like, what do you want to use? Which one do you want to use? And if it's your own stuff, it doesn't matter which one of these. If it's your own code, it doesn't matter if you use true or nil as long as you're making it and putting that cookie there. Other people's code, you might just want to ignore it by suppressing that error or warning and let them deal with it rather than trying to mess with that. I think that's all. I guess also, like, that doesn't matter. That's all I had to say about that. But when you're inside of here, I don't know the proper way to exit, just Control XK, but if you hit Control C, Control D, it'll send it into file message and it'll jump out. And then that's how I usually get out of there. And then Control HK it, I go. I think that's all I have to say.